What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 56 of the Game Room Podcast, the show where I promise we weren't fighting all day on Discord. Dev, how are you doing?
Doing all right. Tired as always.
Tired as always. You know what I'm tired of?
What are you tired of?
I'm tired of talking about fucking layoffs in the games industry. Every single week.
Yeah.
And now it's at a point where it's like they're big enough that it's like the topic of the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a shame. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about the layoffs at EA, what that means for the company, the games that they're canceled, what they're working on, more things around the industry. We saw this past week, Devro, something really interesting that felt like developers, at least from my perspective, developers starting to try to prepare to fight against the possibility of layoffs.
Okay.
But we'll get into that as we go along. But for now, let's start with number one on the headlines: layoffs at EA. EA is cutting 5% of its workforce. The following comes from GamesIndustry.biz. Electronic Arts today, this was last week, announced that it is laying off approximately 5% of its employees as it leans in on parts of the business it feels will be most successful in the years to come. In its most recent annual report, the publisher gave its headcount as 13,400 at the end of March 2023, which most people are calculating this 5% cut leads to about 670 people. The cuts are just one part of the company's restructuring plan, which also includes closing some offices and sunsetting certain live games, like the previously announced shutdown MLB Tap Sports and F1 Mobile Racing. In a note to staffs, EA CEO Andrew Wilson said the company is also moving away from development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry. So, Dev, what's interesting to me is, and we're going to get more into this, what he means by this, but basically it sounds like EA is going to be moving away from using licensed IP such as like Star Wars in their future games. So right now, when these layoffs happened, we knew that they were working on a couple Marvel games. They were making a Black Panther game and an Iron Man game.
Yeah.
And then there was also some Star Wars projects in the works. So I guess we'll just, again, start. So, like, what are your thoughts on just another week with, we're talking 600 plus layoffs here from EA?
It's a lot. The thing I'm one thing that's a little worrying. It's only 5%. A lot of companies that we've seen are laying off 15, 20. I wonder if this is just like a first wave of firing in terms for EA.
Yeah.
But it's. I guess it makes what does make sense is focusing on your own IP. I imagine licensing out IP as cool as Star Wars is. A lot of people will say they haven't handled it the best. I mean, they had a monopoly on it for a while.
Yeah, I think that EA has overall done a terrible job with the Star Wars IP. And I understand that the Jedi games were really good.
I think the stuff they put out was great. It's just they could have done a lot more.
Well, the Battlefront games were lacking, whether it be on a content perspective in the first Battlefront that they made, or from their overuse of loot boxes and all that stuff in the second game. I mean, both of the games just didn't really capture people the way you would expect.
You don't think so? I thought those games were amazing.
Let's go over to the chat real quick. Ty says, EA has been doing a lot better than its counterparts. Its revenue spike did go up, but not as much as the others. Thus, they only needed to cut 5% off. EA has chosen to focus on its own IP. Why pay Disney 10 to 20% of your profits? Building their own IPs instead of building yours. Ty thinks it's madness. Forrest asks, what happened to the good-looking funny guy? You lay him off as well. Yes, we did lay him off.
It's
It's
just the industry and
it's the moving times.
Yeah, we're just trying to adjust.
We're just trying to adjust, and being forceless make a lot of sense.
Couch space is very limited these days.
It really is. You'd be surprised how cramped we are when he's here. Not that we mind it. Not that I mind it anyway.
It's just
But anyways, so these cuts just generally terrible, and I think it's going to be interesting to see all of these different publishers come up with their own ideas as to what they can do to try to move forward and grow in the industry. And I guess EA's perspective is that they don't think these licensed IPs are working for them.
Yeah.
Ty and I, had a lot of disagreements about this. I think that it's just you definitely want to have your own IP, but you should these big IPs, the best-selling game last year was a licensed IP. It sold 22 million copies.
That is true.
And I'm going to continue to point to that. It was the most successful. It outsold Call of Duty. It outsold everything.
But how many IPs besides Star Wars and Harry Potter? I can't really think of too many IPs that could do that. Those are the two IPs that stand out for me. That can bring in those kind of numbers just from fan base alone.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day,
it's
you can still translate that to other success. Maybe not as big of a success, but you can still translate it to a smaller success that does very well.
I get what you mean.
22 million is a lot of copies.
No, you're right. Yeah.
If they churn out a game that sells 10 million or 9 million, 8 million, that's still a successful game.
Yeah.
But let's talk more about the Star Wars game that was canceled from Respawn. As the layoffs came through, we found out that EA has also canceled Respawn Entertainment's first-person Star Wars game that they were working on. It had previously been reported that it was based on a Mandalorian bounty hunter. The news came as part of the restructuring, which saw 5% of its workforce laid off. I think that this is lame as fuck. They were making a game I wanted to play, and they canceled it. So, for me, yes, I think it's not great. Ty says that I keep saying the best-selling game stuff. Gollum was shit. Gotham Knights was shit. Worst IPs were also recognized. Well, that's because they were bad games. Don't get me wrong. You still need to make your licensed IP game a good game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the licensed IP is going to carry it alone. I think it definitely helps.
It definitely helps.
I guarantee you people bought that Gollum game. So there's some people out there that were like, oh, a Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah.
Great. Then it's no.
I think the Harry Potter game was already best-selling before it was in November. It was best-selling game when it launched in February. That's IP that's selling that game. People were hungry for a Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
And it's just...
So it's look, and we're going to talk about what Respawn could be working on right now. At the end of the day, I understand the need to focus on your own IP, but I also think you should focus on making games that people want to play.
But also, EA has a lot of great IP that they can work on. You know what I mean?
That's true. And again, that's my perspective is that you should work on both. So that's with the Star Wars game being canceled. I'm very upset about that. EA also announced that they were closing a studio. So, Dev, I mean, we talk about EA focusing on its own IP. Well, Battlefield is one of their biggest IPs.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
Well, EA closed the Battlefield single player studio Ridgeline. Development of the single player Battlefield content is being moved to Criterion Studio, more known for the Burnout and Need for Speed franchise. It has, however, worked on small areas of Battlefield 5 in 2042. In the public statement on the layoffs, Laura Meal, president of EA Entertainment Technology, seemed to indicate that the departure of Marcus Letho had led to, in some form, the decision to shutter Ridgeline. She says, Marcus Letho recently made a personal decision to leave the project. She said, to ensure the work continues uninterrupted, we immediately appointed leadership at Criterion to oversee the single-player work of the next Battlefield game. So, yeah, that was a studio that was closed in the wake of the layoffs. And then, so you're probably wondering, Dev, so Respawn, they canceled this Star Wars Mandalorian game. It's confirmed that they're making a third Jedi game. So, like, that we know, and that wasn't canceled. So you're probably asking yourself, what else is Respawn working on then if they're going to scrap this game to focus on their own IP? Now, for those who may not know, Respawn, back last generation, made a fantastic game, a fantastic, duo of games in the Titanfall games.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, Titanfall was a game that I remember buying it from my Xbox One, and this was probably year one of Xbox One PS4 life cycle.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what this next gen was all about. Like, I remember playing it, I'm just like, I was blown away by it.
It was a bundle game, and I think it was the only time me, you, Forrest, and Austin played a game together.
Yeah, it's like one of the only times.
The only time.
We all bought it.
Because that was the only game we really had multiplayer,
it was so
really.
good.
And yeah, it was just a fun game.
I love Titanfall so much. I love the idea of it, and I wanted them to continue to make Titanfall games.
Yeah.
And then they decided to stop making Titanfall games due to... Forrest, you are literally the third person to make that joke to me today, so I'm just not even going to acknowledge it. Like, literally 2 other people said that to me today.
Oh.
I'm just like, no, we're not doing this, Forrest. We're not doing that. Get some better jokes, bud. All right?
That's why you were fired.
That's why you were laid off. That's why you were laid off. Laid off for making jokes that 3 other people made today. Great job. So, anyways, so to my disappointment, they stopped making Titanfall games. Titanfall 2 flopped due to EA publishing the game a week after Call of Duty that year, and a week before Battlefield, their own game.
Yeah.
They decided to put Titanfall 2. They sent that game out to die.
Yeah.
And so when the sales weren't good, they decided to stop making Titanfall games. Now, Respawn went on to make Apex, and obviously they say that's set in the Titanfall universe. That wasn't a game that really spoke to me, and it definitely, while it may be in that universe, it's not a Titanfall game.
That's true.
So that does nothing for me. And so you would assume that Titanfall 3 would be the game that they're making. You would assume.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. In a recent episode of Game Mess Mornings, Jeff Grubb opened up about what's happening at Respawn, touching on the original IP being developed at the firm by Steve Fukuda, who directed Titanfall 1 and 2, what seems like a lifetime ago. Months ago, Vince Zampella, the head honcho at Respawn, said that Fukuda was fleshing out the earliest stages of piecing together something new, but it would never be Titanfall 3. According to Grubb, the game that Fukuda and company are creating is set in the Titanfall universe, much like Apex was. During the most recent episode of his pod, Jeff Grubb elaborated on what he knows. Following recent layoffs at Electronic Arts, Respawn was hit, and Star Wars first-person shooter that was rumored to be the Mandalorian game was canceled. Fukuda's game is still in development, but Grubb says it's still untitled. It's in the prototyping phase. The team is about to get much wider. He said, and I quote, "The game as it stands today, as far as I understand it, is a Titanfall game. It's set in the Titanfall universe." He highlighted that he doesn't know how it's an extension of the universe without it being Titanfall 3, as suggested by Respawn Entertainment. They should figure out a way to make it happen. Yeah, so I mean...
The first thing that comes to mind is you can have a game with Titans in it and it not be Titanfall 3. So maybe they're working on something multiplayer because that's brought in a lot of money. Obviously, all their games have been multiplayer or had a multiplayer aspect to it.
But see, my thing is, I think the Titans are such an integral part of Titanfall. So, like, what are you doing if you're making a multiplayer game that doesn't have the Titans in it?
No, that's what I'm saying. I think you can make a multiplayer game that has
Okay.
Titans in it. Yeah, it'll probably be maybe a battle royale style, or who knows? Who knows what it is? They make really good shooters. If they're making another shooter, I can't really.
Get behind it.
No, I can get behind it. I can't really fault them.
It's
Like
okay.
their shooting elements in all their games are really good.
Right.
Even if you don't like Apex, you can't deny that it's not a great shooter. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So-
I just think that if you're going
If
to
they're-
use the IP, and I just misunderstood you. I agree with you. Like, if you're going to do this in the Titanfall universe, you should absolutely try to incorporate the Titans in it. I mean,
In a
that's what
way,
made
yeah.
it that's what made the IP unique.
And they did say they talked about getting Titans in or having a pilot as a character in Apex. It just didn't work out, like numbers wise, like balance wise, it didn't work out.
Right, because it's a battle royale, so I can understand that.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows what they're doing next?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what happens with the
I think-
future of Titanfall.
I think it'll be good no matter what they make next. They're a good developer.
No, I think Respawn's a great developer.
Yeah.
I am disappointed the Star Wars Mandalorian game was canceled. That is
Yeah.
a game that I absolutely would have bought.
And Respawn would have done it justice.
Absolutely, I have
Yeah.
no doubt of that.
Yeah. I wonder how
so-
far they got. Like, I wonder. We'll never know.
We'll
but-
never know, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to keep an eye out, see what Respawn's gonna be working on with this Titanfall game. I'm hoping and just praying that it's something more akin to what I'm looking for in a Titanfall game.
But I mean, we still got Star Wars games coming.
I mean, that's true. We do. So I get it, but you know, I mean, speaking of that, is that there is another Star Wars game currently in development at EA that we don't know a lot about yet. It is a Star Wars strategy game. The Star Wars strategy game currently in development at Bit Reactor at EA will continue despite recent layoffs at EA. That's according to a post from a developer on Twitter following the news that Respawn's first-person shooter was canceled this week. On Twitter, it wrote, "Last week was difficult for the industry and more so because of our strong relationships with other teams at Respawn. But for those asking, we are still hard at work and our game was unaffected by last week's news." So, Star Wars strategy games still being made. I'm excited for that. I love Star Wars games. I love strategy games. So, they're still making that. That's
Yeah.
good for me. All right, let's move on to number 2 in the headlines. So, I kind of bunched these together. They were all separate stories, but it was something I took note of this week, where you started to see developers go and start to, like, I guess future-proof themselves is the way that I would say. Like, a lot of independents being acquired this week.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. So let's start off with what I thought was the most surprising out of all of them. Xbox/Activision studio Toys for Bob is going independent. As first reported by GameFile, Toys for Bob officially announced plans to become an independent game development studio. Fans will likely recognize Toys for Bob's work on the Spyro Reignited trilogy, the Crash Bandicoot series, and they've also done a lot of Call of Duty behind the scenes under the hood work.
Yeah. And their newest game that came out last year, Crash Rumble.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, I don't think I put it in the headlines, but that game is actually losing support.
Oh,
They're
I didn't
ending
know
support of it because they're not with
Okay.
Xbox anymore, or with Activision. So I guess they can't support it anymore.
That sucks. I mean, I haven't heard anything about it, good or bad, but
So
it still sucks.
in an official blog post, Toys for Bob says the independent studio will allow the independent move will allow the studio to return to our roots of being a small and nimble studio. They go on to tease that they're exploring a possible partnership between the new independent studio and Microsoft. Their next game is still in early development. The devs couldn't reveal any further details. The announcement mentions that the team is excited to develop new stories, new characters, and new gameplay experiences. That suggests that the next project could be an original IP. However, Toys for Bob also says both Activision and Microsoft are very supportive of this change. The team is confident that they will continue to work closely together as part of their future. So it's possible we could see them continue to work with Xbox IP like Crash or Spyro. At the end of the press release for Toys for Bob, they say keep your horns listening,
Okay.
which people were like, oh,
That
that's
sounds
a Spyro
Spyro.
tease.
Yeah.
It's a Spyro tease. I was really surprised by this. I think it makes a lot of sense for Toys for Bob and like a lot of these developers, I mean, to go independent. I mean, you're seeing a lot of publishers laying off a lot of people, so I could totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand necessarily the decision on Xbox's part though.
Okay.
The reason being is like, so we talk about like the future and how it's all going to be about software. Software is key, right? And like it doesn't matter, like the box is not going to matter as much, whatever it is. So at this point, you should be focusing on building your first party portfolio. Oh, Daisy says hi. Hi, Daisy.
Hey.
So like, you should be focused on building your first party portfolio, right? Like, am I wrong in that thought process? Because I was very confused why Xbox or Microsoft would go along with it. I mean, obviously they're going to retain the IP that they bought. So like, Crash and Spyro still belong to them.
Yeah.
And they could very well work with Toys for Bob to make these games in the future. It just seems kind of weird for them to go this route.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Toys for Bob bought their independence. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's very interesting.
It's probably better for the studio.
Oh, for sure. I think it is. I mean, I don't want to say it 100% is, but I mean, in today's gaming landscape, like we're seeing layoffs at all the big publishers. So it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like if you can control your own destiny, and you know maybe in the future you only got to lay off like one or two people as opposed to like half your staff. Like I guess I get that part of it, but in other places in the industry, we saw other interesting things. Here was a big one. Embracer is selling off Saber Interactive, the developer behind the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, in a $500 million deal. The Embracer Group, the company behind the closure of Saints Row Studio Volition Games and layoffs at Eidos Montreal, Black Forest Games, and many others, they are set to sell Star Wars KOTOR remake developer Saber Interactive, according to a new Bloomberg report. Embracer is selling the developer to a group of private investors in a deal worth $500 million, a source told Bloomberg. Once the deal goes through, Saber Interactive will be a privately owned company and free from Embracer, which is behind layoffs spread throughout the past couple of years. Following the transaction, the studio will continue to work on its Knights of the Old Republic remake, which it took over as the developer after Aspyr Media was removed from it in 2022. Bloomberg reports that this sale is another effort of Embracer to cut costs alongside studio closures and layoffs after a planned $2 billion deal with Saudi Arabia-backed Savvy Games Group fell through last year. I'm very excited to see Saber Interactive get their independence.
Yeah.
I was very worried about this KOTOR remake. Yeah. I think we talked about it a couple months ago, and I said there's no way this game happens.
Yeah, you did say that.
I'm so happy.
But now you have confirmation that they're still working on it.
Hey, we're going to be independent. We're working on this game. Like, we're making this game. And I think that's great. Ty says, there's a chance Xbox does not see the old IPs like Crash and Spyro as valuable, so the team that's going to make them is just a cost, and that's not needed. I imagine it makes sense for them. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that, again, it's all about that whole portfolio as a whole. But, anyways. Yeah, so I thought this was a great move. And also, while we're on the topic of Embracer, selling developers off instead of closing them, this is out of order, but I'm just going to jump to D instead. Mm-hmm. Borderlands studio Gearbox is reportedly closer than ever to being sold by Embracer Group. Sources have reportedly told Kotaku that Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford held a town hall meeting with staff last week, told them that a decision had been made regarding the studio's future, with more information to be shared in March. According to the report, Pitchford had been telling staff for months that Gearbox's three options were to stay with Embracer, get sold to another company, or buy itself out and become independent. Kotaku claims that the decision has been made to sell Gearbox to another company, and that deal is being finalized. Refusing to confirm or deny the report, Pitchford told Kotaku, "I'm delighted that what we might be up to is interesting enough to people that you want to make a story about us for your readers." He added, "As always, we will be thrilled to share whenever we have projects to announce or news to share as we work hard towards our mission to entertain the world." I think it's great for Gearbox.
Yeah. You
got to get away from Embracer. Like, everybody just get out.
I hope it works out for them. I like Gearbox. I like the games they make.
Ty says, they should have set up a GoFundMe to buy Saber instead. Don't cry when people who actually have money invested make decisions you don't like. well, screw your shareholders. I don't care about any of them. I don't give a shit about any of these shareholders. Not a single shit. I couldn't care less. It's like all the shareholders are unhappy. That's life, buddy. Get out there and get a real job.
I don't know.
Anyways. Let's move on. Remedy has bought control of the Control franchise from the publisher 505 Games. Developer Remedy Entertainment is assuming more control over its shared game universe. The developer announced last Wednesday in a press release that it had obtained the marketing and publishing rights for the Control franchise from publisher 505 Games. The deal will see Remedy Entertainment make 3 payments to 505 Games, totaling about $18.5 million. This amount is a small premium on the money that 505 Games has invested into the upcoming Control 2 and Condor, the latter of which is a codename for a co-op title in the world of Control. Remedy also notes that Alan Wake 2 continues to be financially successful and that the team will be evaluating different publishing options for the future Control games in the coming months. Alan Wake 2, which launched back in October 2023, has sold over 1.3 million copies as of February 2024. This is great.
Yeah.
Remedy's a great developer. And
getting control of your own IP is such a win.
That's such a win.
Yeah, such a W.
That's great.
Yeah.
Shareholding is just professional bitching. Honestly, that wouldn't be a bad career. I actually maybe I'm being too harsh on the shareholders.
Yeah, and then you can say things like, "It's my money, so do it this way."
It's like Thanos. It's like, maybe I've judged you too harshly. It's like, I wouldn't mind professionally just complaining about everything. Anyways.
You're like, I'm out here complaining for free.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. What am I doing? Yeah, so a lot of crazy stuff going on in the games industry right now. A lot of developers moving around, a lot of shuffling, but hopefully it's for the best.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Speaking of things that hopefully for the best, Nintendo, number 3 on the headlines, not Nintendo. I just hate those goddamn emulators. They can't stand them. So this actually changed in the script last week because they got sued. Well, the suit's already over. So, Forrest, relax. There's no courtroom shenanigans. It's already been settled. It's over. The Switch emulator creator, Yuzu, has settled in the Nintendo lawsuit for $2.4 million. Tropic Haze, the creator of Switch emulator Yuzu, was sued by Nintendo last week. The platform holder that claimed Yuzu was facilitating piracy at a colossal scale. Nintendo is so overdramatic. Colossal scale. On Monday, the two parties mutually agreed on monetary settlement and permanent injunction. As part of the judgment by the U.S. District Court of Rhode Island, Tropic Haze was issued with a permanent injunction preventing it from offering or marketing Yuzu or any of its source code in the future. Its members are also prevented from creating any future software that circumvents Nintendo's technical protection, and Tropic Haze must surrender all website domains and information related to its emulator. This permanent injunction constitutes a binding court order, and any violations by Tropic Haze or its members will subject them to the full scope of the court's contempt authority, including punitive and monetary sanctions. In its initial lawsuit, Nintendo claimed that last year's biggest Switch release, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, was pirated over 1 million times in the week and a half before its release. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, the way they described it, at first I thought it was ridiculous, but the way they described it is, I think he pre-ordered it himself to fans, so when the game came out, they all just got the game from him, not from Nintendo.
Right.
Probably at a cheaper price or something, I don't know, but...
With Yuzu in hand, nothing stops a user from obtaining and playing unlawful copies of virtually any game made for Nintendo Switch, all without paying a dime to Nintendo or to any of the hundreds of other game developers and publishers making and selling games for the Switch, Nintendo said. In effect, Yuzu turns general computing devices into tools for massive intellectual property infringement of Nintendo and others' copyrighted works. Devro, how do you feel about emulation?
It's rough because I want...
Watch out, and the Nintendo assassins are always watching.
I mean, it's bad, it's horrible, You should get the death penalty. Anyone who touches an emulator ever.
Right to the chair.
Yeah, straight to the chair.
So here's the thing, right? I 100% believe in supporting the official release. I think that if Nintendo puts out a game, if Xbox anybody puts out a game, the right thing to do is to buy it or whatever, subscribe to whatever, like however the company is selling you the game, purchase it.
Because
I do feel that. I feel that way very strongly. I feel like you should always go with your wallet. If you want to, if you want to play Zelda, you should go and buy Zelda. Buy a Switch and buy Zelda.
Especially if they have it available and it's not difficult to get. Like it's you know what I mean? Like you can get the game. The game drops this day, you can go buy the game. Yeah. Like there's no difficulty behind it.
So here's my thing about emulation though. That first point I 100% believe in. Hey Nintendo, if I wanted to buy Pokemon Silver, how would I go about doing that? You hear that? You hear the silence?
Yeah, it's crickets.
Crickets. And not because the Nintendo assassins aren't watching. They're watching. They just don't have a fucking answer.
And they're very quiet.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm sorry. I'm never going to tell someone, hey, you should not download an emulator for a game that's not available for sale. Like, here's the thing. You should follow the law. I've never downloaded an emulator and played a ROM that I didn't own that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and technically, legally speaking, if you own a copy of the game...
Oh, yeah, if you own a copy...
you can play a ROM.
Yeah.
Now, that I've done. Like, I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
I have my copy of Majora's Mask. Like, I remember playing it on an emulator once. Because I had my N64 at my dad's when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Whole big thing. Anyways, not the point. Point is, I think emulation is important for preservation purposes, specifically. And that's something that I don't trust these companies, Nintendo included, to care enough about. So, like, it's kind of hard for me to not look at that aspect of it. Again, like, support the official release, buy games, buy your video games.
And
like,
don't expect to get paid from, like...
That was crazy, man.
Yeah, making money off of somebody else's stuff
exactly.
That is completely...
Yeah,
that I don't agree with.
That's kind of also where I also don't agree with it either.
Yeah.
I think that's where they really messed up, because the emulator went on forever.
Yeah.
And then what did they do? They put up a Patreon. And they tried to paywall the emulator.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo's like, wait a second.
That's when you get what you deserve.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not sad that Yuzu closed down.
Which I don't think it'll disappear, Emulators don't die, really.
No. I mean, well, apparently there's a new one. So this one was called Yuzu. It's called Nuzu.
Yeah.
It's like, it's never...
It doesn't
can't
go
stop
away.
it. Nintendo, it's like there's ants. And you're just like, you squish one.
Yeah, 10 more arrive.
Yeah, and they're just like...
You brought attention to it.
But yeah, so that's Nintendo. I mean, like, look, Nintendo makes a game. You should absolutely buy that game from them if you want to play that game from them. But let's also not forget that emulation has its own significance when it comes to like game preservation and stuff like that. Also, Pokemon Silver, or Red, or Blue, or Crystal, or Emerald, or Ruby, or Sapphire, or like, I mean, I guess there's Diamond and Pearl remakes on Switch.
Yeah.
Or Black and White. Black 2 and White 2 and Sun and Moon.
If you want to play them.
If you want to play the Pokemon franchise, period.
Good luck.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Anyways. Just dumb. You're really dumb. Nintendo, just stop. Just be better. Like, if Nintendo turned around next generation, I really hope they do, and they're just like, okay, we're putting, like, all of our first-party games, and Pokemon's not technically first-party, but, and the Pokemon games on the NSO.
That's never happening.
It's never happening. But, like, okay, like, that point, you can't justify downloading things on an emulator. Anyways, I mean, I guess we'll see what Nintendo does. Yeah, the Nintendo assassins will come for us tonight. Because I did technically say that there is a world, there is a situation where emulation's okay. But
you did admit to it.
I did. Well, I own the game. Yeah. I can go get it. I can go get it from the other room. I have it in my hands. I'm in the game room. Anyways, let's move on. Number 4 in the headlines. Follow-up to last week's PlayStation layoffs. Insomniac ended up addressing the layoffs. They said, like several other teams across SIE and PlayStation Studios, Insomniac Games was impacted by last week's layoffs. There are no sufficient words to express our feelings about it. This is a solemn and unprecedented moment for our studio. We are focusing our energy on helping everyone affected through this challenging time. For those who are hiring, there are great people seeking new roles who made important contributions to Insomniac's history. We're extremely grateful for them, and they will be missed. Other thing to note is that Gorilla's Horizon online game was not one of the canceled projects from Sony. Earlier this week, Sony Interactive Entertainment announced plans to lay off 900 employees worldwide. That was last week. In addition to the planned closure of the PlayStation London studio, it confirmed that jobs were lost in Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Firesprite, and Guerrilla. Commenting on the restructure, that's just stuff we talked about last week. Following the announcement, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that the Twisted Metal game was axed. Asked on Twitter if Guerrilla's Horizon online game had also been canceled, he said that it hadn't. Guerrilla officially announced in December 2022 that it was working on an online game set in the Horizon universe, but the studio did lose 10% of its staff as part of the layoffs.
Yeah.
So we did get a confirmation that that game is still in development.
It sucks. I think a lot of the Sony multiplayer stuff is really wishy-washy right now. Which sucks is it's great IP behind it, but...
Yeah. So, I kind of looped this together with the layoff news, but it's not really about the layoffs. Sony studio Firesprite has been shedding talent amidst accusations of toxic culture, the staff says. Sony acquired studio Firesprite has recently suffered high-profile exits amid accusations of a toxic workplace culture, Eurogamer was told, as part of an investigation into the studio begun ahead of the layoffs announced by Sony last week. The Liverpool-based developer released PSVR 2 launch title Horizon Call of the Mountain last year after being acquired by Sony in 2021. But the impact of crunch for that game's release and changes in the company's senior leadership have subsequently led to the discontent within the studio, staff have told Eurogamer, something one source described as death by 1,000 cuts. Most concerning are reports from sources that two senior leaders from Sony support studio XDev, or I guess the previous you, because it's XDev, brought in to help lead Firesprite, have since been accused of sexual discrimination and ageism. A subsequent internal investigation by Sony is said to have resulted in the claims being dismissed as a misunderstanding. Job cuts at Firesprite were announced earlier this week last week as part of the layoffs. Eurogamer understands the studio was also separately working on another high-profile game in the Sony franchise. Ahead of these layoffs, sources say an alarming number of employees had left the studio in recent months following a retention bonus payout in October, designed to reward staff for remaining on at the developer after Sony acquisition for a further period of time. Public employee reviews of Firesprite on the company review site Glassdoor describe horrendous studio heads who are way out of their depth and just care about their money, leading to a toxic bullying culture and culture of fear. One recent review takes a more sympathetic view, though stating Firesprite's old way was diagnosed and Sony has remolded the studio, which has ruffled many feathers. Eurogamer has spoken to a number of sources close to the company to understand the causes of this discontent, all of whom wish to remain anonymous for the sake of their careers. Others told Eurogamer that they did not wish to take part in this investigation for fear of reprisal. While some staff say that they believe change was needed at the studio after PlayStation's takeover, others suggested Sony's corporate view had altered the company culture. The overall picture they painted was of a very different Firesprite studio that existed before the buyout. Sony has long held a close relationship with Firesprite, which was born from the ashes of PlayStation's sadly shuttered studio Liverpool. Studio developed PlayStation 4 exclusive The Playroom, and its later expansion was also behind Little Big Planet spin-off Run Sackboy Run. After work on several other PlayStation VR projects, Firesprite's buyout by Sony did not spark surprise. Just generally not great stuff going on at Firesprite.
Yeah.
Just bad culture and just seems like a bad place to work. Forrest said this was good swinging footage. And Forrest asked, "Do you think they're laying off whistleblowers?" I mean, honestly, I can't speak on it, but I mean, it's just
I think I feel like you
it seems kind of interesting that there's a lot of issues going on, and then they cut a lot. I mean, they were doing layoffs across the board. It's very easy though for Sony or PlayStation to look at it and be like, you know what, we're just gonna lay these troublemakers off. Like I don't want to speculate, but I mean, it definitely feels like it could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Oh, you misunderstood. What I meant was we are laying you off. Ty says he's not surprised about Firesprite, really. I think these big corporations were always having issues, some more than others. As long as there's a push to reduce, then that's good. A push to reduce to eradicate. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so tough stuff going on at Firesprite. Let's, Devro, we've been talking about some negative stuff. Let's cheer up a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about some actual video games.
Awesome.
Number 5 on the headline. Devro, there's an Xbox partner showcase tomorrow. Announced on Monday. The Xbox team says, we're thrilled to announce the next Xbox partner preview. This time featuring a mix of new and upcoming games for you from publishers like Capcom, Nexon, EA, and others, with more than a dozen new trailers over the course of the 30-minute broadcast. During the Xbox Partner Preview, you can learn more about combat and traversal in Tales of Kenzara Zhao, with a video narrated by Abu Bakr Salim himself. See new gameplay from Kunitsu Gami, Path of the Goddess. Get a closer look at the first Berserker, Kazan, and other great titles coming to Xbox, Windows, or Game Pass. Our Xbox Partner Preview format is all about sharing exciting news from our talented studios from across the globe with no frills, just new game reveals, release date announcements, and fresh new gameplay from upcoming games, coupled with a unique behind-the-scenes stories from developers here on the Xbox Wire. The event will be tomorrow, March 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, or 6 p.m. GMT, across their Xbox channels on YouTube and Twitch. This is great. I hope that Xbox is... We talked about this last year, and I think Xbox is doing a really good job right now at these showcases where it's like you have the developer direct in January, you burn down the entire industry in February, and then here you are in March having a partner showcase. This is great. You know? And then we know that they have the June showcase
coming up. It's like those of us who are left have something to show you.
Yeah, right? It's like, hello. We survived the first culling.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's exciting. It's always exciting to get a direct or a showcase of any magnitude. So it's something to look forward to tomorrow. 12, like they said a dozen. Did they say over?
What
or
time?
More than a dozen. Tomorrow at 1 p.m.
Yeah, that's cool.
More than a dozen game
That's awesome.
reveals. So
yeah.
That's going to be great. And obviously they put that there's going to be Game Pass announcements. So as a Game Pass subscriber, I'm excited for that. I'm going to Hail Mary here.
Okay.
I would love to see Final Fantasy VII Remake here. As like a surprise.
Okay.
It's a Hail Mary, but I'm throwing.
That's a far one.
It's going. The ball's still in the air.
That's end zone to end zone.
You know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. You know.
You're right.
You lose the best center in the league. What else are you gonna do? Yeah. So look forward to our thoughts on that next week. Yes, EST, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about it next week. Number 6 on the headlines, Devro. Do you want some Assassin's Creed Red details?
Absolutely.
All right, well, I'm going to give them to you.
Nice.
The following comes from Insider Gaming. Insider Gaming, by the way, great week for them. A lot of exclusive scoops. Like, a few of the things that we're talking about coming up are from Insider Gaming. They go on to say, unless you're living under a rock this past year or so, you'll know that Assassin's Creed Red is the next mainline Assassin's Creed title to release later this year. Officially, we don't know much apart from the game being set in feudal Japan, and it will be connected to the Infinity Hub, which we talked about last week. On the other hand, leaks and reports have shed light on what to expect, including our own reporting that revealed the title will have 2 protagonists, Nao and Yasuke. Last week, Insider Gaming wanted to dive a bit deeper into the gameplay mechanics and the engine of Red, because frankly, it seems like it's being built for a new era of the franchise. To start, the Assassin's Creed franchise as a whole isn't moving to a new engine, necessarily. but it will be a substantial evolution of it named the Anvil Pipeline. Sources explain that the Anvil Pipeline allows all of the various Assassin's Creed studios, of which there are many, to work from one unified branch, rather than having different versions and different branches. The most means that moving forward, Assassin's Creed will benefit visually from the lines of ray-traced global illumination and virtual geometry. The move to the Anvil Pipeline has meant that the teams have had to completely overhaul everything in the series, including animations, its parkour system, dynamic weather, and more. Combat in Assassin's Creed Red was described to Insider Gaming as being somewhat similar to Valhalla, but featuring a lot more gore, including blood and decapitations. Stealth also plays a major role in Red. I think that's big personally for me. Somewhat akin to Splinter Cell. The players can extinguish torches, hide in tall grass and bushes, and even go prone whenever they please. Footage provided to Insider Gaming under the condition that it would not go public also showed a major evolution to this Valhalla settlement feature. In Red, players were able to build their settlement in a big way named the Hideout. The Hideout will be where the player will be able to build at their own will the likes of an armory, dojo, altar, and more. These buildings are customizable, from being able to pick the building location to being able to choose the roof design and the interior layout, where you can display the likes of your weapons and armor. All those things can be displayed as well. Overall, the Assassin's Creed franchise is taking a gigantic leap, and our first glimpse will be set to be revealed in the coming months.
Yeah, this sounds awesome.
Yeah, like my big thing for me is
the stealth.
The stealth, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that Valhalla really lost that part of the plot.
Okay.
Where it's like
you don't feel like an assassin.
I didn't. Well, like Eivor is not really an assassin. Like they are, but they're not. Like they're really not assassins. And I feel like that was something that for me, apart from the fact that I played it for 3 months straight and hated myself, that was a big thing for me where I was just like, why do we call this Assassin's Creed? Like, I guess it does connect to the universe a little bit, but
I think that's why. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it also kind of jumped the shark a little bit. I think it got a little ridiculous. Ray trace. Yep, those are words, all right.
I mean, it's actually so. If you're having characters put out torches to hide in the shadows, ray tracing is actually really important for that.
Yeah, it is. No, it is. Yeah.
So that if it works out, that's awesome. You know.
Yeah,
it's a lot of hope. You know.
Forrest, why we laid you off, because you don't understand dynamic lighting and its importance in gaming. That's why you got laid off. Yeah, so I'm excited for Assassin's Creed Red. I think I heard or saw a rumor online that the reveal for the game was going to be in May.
Okay.
So
I imagine E3 times, but I guess May and then gameplay around E3. Who knows? You think the game's coming out this year?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be in November. Maybe October, probably November.
I think it'll be a holiday game.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Number 7 on the headlines. Another exclusive from Insider Gaming. EA's next Battlefield game will also have a free-to-play Battle Royale included. It's been a rough couple of years for the Battlefield franchise, with Battlefield 2042 failing to meet player expectations. On launch, the game was arguably one of the least complete Battlefield games to date, comprising of countless bugs and core design choices that did not resonate with the community. As a result, Battlefield 2042 saw a lackluster sales compared to its predecessor and a major restructuring for the franchise as a whole. Respawn Entertainment's Vince Zampella is now head honcho leading the series, with Christian Grass heading Ripple Effect, formerly Dice LA, and Byron Bede becoming the new general manager of the franchise. Marcus Leto was also in charge of the Ridgeline Game Studio, but he departed and the studio closed down. So where does that leave Battlefield? Well, officially, we don't know much apart from that there are multiple Battlefield projects in the works, which will all be integrated into a new Battlefield universe. EA CEO Andrew Wilson also hinted that the next mainline Battlefield game will not be released until 2025. Insider Gaming understands that the game currently has a tentative target release date of October, putting it in line with past Battlefield releases. Insider Gaming has also learned that the next title is somewhat of a back-to-its-roots approach, with the likes of 64-player matches, the return of its 4-class system, and an overhaul to its destruction systems. As for the game's setting itself, it will be set in modern day, somewhere around 2025 to 2030, with a strong story-driven emphasis on modern technology used in war. Ripple Effect, the studio that is working on this new experience for the Battlefield franchise, is also working on a new Battle Royale title that's currently aimed to be free to play and follow a similar strategy to the highly successful Call of Duty Warzone that will see the free to play experience tie in with premium release. The game is said to be the brainchild of Byron Bede, who has been previously leading the live service for Call of Duty. Currently, the game has two different modes, including Classic Battle Royale Experience and a mode named Gauntlet, which will see teams of players compete in objective-based modes, with the lowest scoring team being kicked out after each mission. So yeah, I'm all for more Battle Royale games.
Yeah.
I've been looking for a Battle Royale game to fill the void since Blackout. Well, all my friends moved on from it.
It's also a mode that makes a lot of sense for Battlefield.
It really does, because Battlefield's always been a larger scale game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm anticipating it. Obviously, 2025 is going to be crazy because Grand Theft Auto's coming.
Yeah.
We'll see when that launches. But if it's coming out in October, poor Battlefield.
Yeah.
But I mean, what can you do? You know what I mean? It's just like...
Push it back.
Well, they don't know exactly when Rockstar...
Yeah, no, of course not.
Yeah, well, that's why they haven't or announced a release date yet. But hopefully EA can do something really cool with the Battlefield Battle Royale. Number 8 on the headlines, we might be getting the reveal of Starfield's Shattered Space expansion soon. Those who purchased... so Starfield released in September 2023. Starfield is now on par with the likes of Fallout and Skyrim in terms of player counts, which isn't surprising. It's a single-player game.
Mm-hmm.
However, fans are patiently waiting for news of the game's first major... When is Games Fest? Jeff Keighley has not announced that yet for us. Probably June. Those who purchased the higher editions of Starfield already have access to Shattered Space, like me, which was named before Starfield was even released. However, we're almost 7 months in, and we have not heard about this expansion yet, Devro. Hopefully, that's about to change. It's a small suggestion, but it's a suggestion nonetheless. Recently, it was discovered through SteamDB that Starfield's listing on the platform had been updated to show an unknown app in the game's DLC section. This is a new addition to the game's metadata, but it's not known what the change indicates. To put it into perspective, when this happened for Fallout 4, this stuff ended up being DLC for Fallout 4.
Okay.
So that could mean that we are imminently getting an announcement for Starfield's Shattered Space expansion.
Okay.
Which is something I'm very much looking forward to. Number 9 on the headlines. Call of Duty Warzone Mobile is going to be launching this month. Officially revealed in September 2022, the iOS and Android game is co-developed by Activision Shanghai, Beenox, Digital Legends, and Solid State Studios. A limited release for the game began in Australia in November 2022, before rolling out to other countries including Chile, Norway, and Sweden last year. 50 million players have pre-registered for Call of Duty Warzone Mobile, according to Activision. Its flagship 120-player Battle Royale mode plays out on Warzone's classic Verdansk map, while Rebirth Island will support 48 players and Resurgence rules, which allow players to respawn as long as one of their teammates is still alive. Which, not a fun mode in my opinion. But Warzone Mobile will also offer classic Call of Duty multiplayer action with several maps and modes, including Shipment, Shoot House, Scrapyard, with TDM, Domination, Kill Confirmed, and Search and Destroy modes, including hardcore variants. Just about every element in the controls interface can be customized to your liking, including extensive HUD adjustments, detailed controller settings, and graphical options that prioritize performance, graphics, or a balanced mix, Activision said. So here's the big thing about it. Warzone Mobile supports shared progression with your console and PC versions of Call of Duty. This includes player XP, weapon levels, and battle parts progression. So basically, if you're a Call of Duty player and you love playing Call of Duty at home, you're on the go, you open it up on your phone, you can level up, you can grind weapons.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a really cool thing if you're a Call of Duty player who just plays it all the time. I mean, It just makes it easier for you to grind your weapons. I mean, I know people personally that are going to definitely play Call of Duty Mobile when it launches. Which, like I said, I believe March 21st is the release date. So, weeks away. Number 10 on the headlines. So, Rockstar got some heat this week from its employees. Grand Theft Auto maker Rockstar has asked workers to return to the office for 5 days a week in person working.
Yeah.
Rockstar. This comes from Bloomberg. Rockstar Games, a division of Take Two Interactive, will ask employees to return to the office 5 days a week beginning in April as the video game makers enters the final stages of development on Grand Theft Auto 6. In an email to staff on Wednesday, reviewed by Bloomberg, Rockstar head of publishing Jen Colby said the decision was made for productivity and security reasons. The company has faced several security breaches, including a massive dump of early footage from the new Grand Theft Auto, and had an early trailer leaked in December. Now, they're not wrong about that.
Yeah,
There's
no.
been so many leaks for GTA 6.
This is one of those things where it's like I don't disagree with them.
Okay, good, because I don't either.
Yeah, productivity and security for your game. I understand working from home probably like luxurious for developers. You know, you wake up, you work on the game, you're at home, you don't have to leave the house.
So here's the thing.
It's a comfort thing.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? And I'm not trying to be Ty's about to show up out of nowhere and be like, yes. While I totally understand, and if a developer lets the employees work from home, that's great. As someone who personally, due to his job, and I mean you have as well,
Yeah.
like, we go to work every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Worked through the pandemic. I mean, I didn't stay home for the pandemic.
Yeah, me
You
either.
didn't stay home for the pandemic. I have very little sympathy for Rockstar Game or for the employees, like Rockstar Games saying, "Hey, like we've let you guys work from home, but we're getting into the end of of development for our biggest game.
Yeah.
That's going to be like our flagship game for the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Because that's how long it's going to be.
I don't agree with crunch, but I do agree with, hey, let's bring everyone in.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, hey, we've had a lot of leaks.
Yeah.
We want to have people in the building for the finale of development.
I'm sure it helps with communication, which helps with productivity.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, again, like I don't want employees to be unhappy. I want them to be treated well. And if they're able, like, I don't believe, like, some publishers say, like, oh, it affects productivity. I don't believe that necessarily. I think that
I think it does.
I don't think it has to, though.
If I was working from home, I definitely wouldn't be putting in 100%. You know what I mean? I can see that.
That's fair. I don't know. But regardless, I think that if Rockstar, who's let people work from home for who knows how many years, is saying, like, hey, like, we need you guys in the office to finish this game up.
Yeah.
I just don't. And Forrest calls for a hybrid, and, like, I understand that, but
that's not going to stop. If one of your goals is to protect leaks, like for security of the game.
We had an employee's son.
Oh yeah.
It was his son.
Yeah,
so
the guy,
what do you mean? You think the son snuck into Rockstar HQ? No, he probably opened up his dad's computer and sent himself the stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, it's like I don't know. I won't. It's probably one of my like least like developer friendly takes, but like I just don't have a lot of sympathy for developers being forced to work in the office for 5 days a week.
And I guess like after the game's out, like I don't know, 6 months after lunch, when like you have patches and all that stuff in, maybe go back, maybe do a hybrid or go back home. You know, like.
Well, Forrest, that's why we laid you off. Forrest says I'm not putting 100% in anywhere. It's like, yeah, it's why you got laid off, dude. It's why we let you go. Great job, Devro. We made the right decision here. Great business decision. Laid off the guy that wasn't trying. You're over here like messing with the mic before we start every day, stressing out.
Yeah.
Forrest is just like, I don't care. Yeah, so that's what's going on at Rockstar. People are upset. Employees are upset. Just finish your game and then you can go back to doing it. You know, working from home.
It sounds harsh.
It does, but it's just like I just don't have. Again, it's funny that Ty hasn't commented yet because I just don't have a lot of sympathy for the employees being told to work in the office for 5 days a week. Like, sorry, I worked 5-6 days a week on location through the pandemic. Like, I'm just like maybe it's just my life experiences. I'm just like, all right, sorry, you're making the biggest entertainment IP of all time. You know what's funny? I was thinking about it the other day, and like the games industry is getting so crazy and so weird that in my head I coined this like term where I was like, I'm gonna start referring to Grand Theft Auto 6 as like the series finale of video games, because it's like that's the last video game. Like I have no doubt that the games industry is going to shut down after GTA 6.
You kind of have to, right?
It's the series finale. It's like everything's going away. Consoles are going away. Physical media is going away.
How close?
Developers are laying people off. We laid off Forrest.
How far away do you keep your game away from GTA 6?
Like 6 months.
6 months.
Like there is nothing coming out whenever GTA 6 is coming out, or like games will try and games will fail.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to happen. Like, Call of Duty will launch around there. Like, I don't think Call of Duty will move.
And whatever Nintendo's putting out will be fine.
Yeah, Call of Duty won't move, Nintendo won't move, but, like, anything else is just, like, get out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Next up on the headlines, Ghost of Tsushima's PC port could be announced this week. It's been claimed that the port will be announced possibly today. That didn't happen. At least in my notes, it didn't happen. So, definitely not today. Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow.
You know what would be crazy? If that gets announced at the Xbox Partner Direct tomorrow. Would that be insane? Ghost of Tsushima. Write this down. Hey, look. If it happens...
If you're wrong, we will never speak about it again.
Yeah, but if it happens, like, that's crazy. That's a crazy prediction right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it could make sense. I mean,
it's a great game.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. Ghost of Tsushima coming to PC, might as well come to PlayStation as well, or Xbox as well. Somewhere, I'll buy it. I'll buy it on Xbox.
Get all the achievements, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Like, that's the thing. If Sony ever decides to put their first-party games on Xbox, I will buy those games to play them again and get achievements for them, including the ones I've already played on PlayStation.
Okay.
Spider-Man, definitely.
You'll replay it.
Horizon, yes.
Get all these.
God of War, yes.
Okay.
Uncharted, yes. Days Gone, never played Days Gone. Wanted to play Days Gone. Will definitely play Days Gone if it's on Xbox. But anyways, the news came courtesy of Xbox Era's Special Nick, who took to Twitter to tweet the claim. He said, "I'm hearing we might be getting something about Ghost of Tsushima's PC port pretty soon, maybe around the 5th." To be fair, he says around. And also, Special Nick has had good...
Tomorrow's around the 5th.
So. Yeah, exactly. So who knows? Tomorrow, Xbox Showcase.
Yeah.
Just saying. That's it. That would be crazy. Let's move on. Number 12 in the headlines. You thought we were done, Devro. We're right back at it with more layoffs.
Someone got fired again.
First up, one person was laid off from the Roman Dev podcast.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
We had to let him go.
Always unfortunate. No. So Sea of Thieves co-developer Radical Forge was hit with layoffs. As first reported by GamesIndustry.biz, indie developer Radical Forge faced a small round of layoffs for restructuring. Previously a junior tech designer, Louis Escude, at Radical Forge posted a new tweet suggesting that the layoffs had affected 6 people in total. So, I mean, small developer, only 6 layoffs, but it's still 6 layoffs.
Yeah.
There was also layoffs at, ironically enough, 505 Games, the company that, sold the rights to Remedy for Control. They were closing their offices in Germany, Spain, and France. The news comes as part of the company's ongoing restructuring process that started last year. The report, which comes courtesy of Game Reactor, states that although several offices are closing, it's believed that the number of affected employees is only about 10 people.
Okay.
So, again, some smaller release cuts, but all the same. Number 13, I came across this, and I just thought this was really cool. And this is something that if developers could do this, like, this is something that live service games should be doing to make themselves... Like for the model to make sense and for it to be worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, let's get into it. Helldivers 2 has a guy at the company. His name is Joel. And he basically is like a Galactic War D&D dungeon master.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just days after Helldivers 2 community mourned the loss of fan favorite map Malevolent Creek, it has emerged that there is a single developer at Arrowhead pulling the strings like a D&D dungeon master. In an interview with PC Gamer, Arrowhead CEO Johan Pilestedt pulled back the curtain ever so slightly on Helldiver 2's hugely popular meta narrative that sees the forces of Super Earth, the players, battle against alien bugs and bots for control of the galaxy. Revealing a developer called Joel is steering the ship from behind the scenes. He says, quote, "We have an actual person, Joel, with the job title of Game Master. We have a lot of systems built into the game where Game Master has a lot of control over the play experience. It's something that we're continuously evolving based on what's happening in the game and is part of the roadmap. There are things that we want to keep secret because we want to surprise and delight." This is such a cool thing that there is a guy at the developer and he's just like, he wakes up, he's like, you know what? The bugs won that planet.
Yeah.
I'm reading this and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Where I'm saying like the live service model could make so much sense if you do it this way, where it's like it's an ongoing, ever changing thing. I don't like the idea of like a live service game where it's just like, all right, log in and do your 3 exercises
Yeah.
to get your coins so you can, end up paying for something anyway. And I think that like this is just such a cool idea where there's a guy who's curating this story, this this galactic war.
That's what makes you attached to
It's
it.
so cool.
I think I'm gonna bring up 2 other live service games that do it really well. Destiny, which is their live service is always built around a story, and Fortnite, which is ever changing. Like
yeah,
they have a different season, and like something else just shows up in the map, and everyone wonders, and
Yeah.
they hit Twitter and like hits the
Exactly.
media. It's like that's what makes your live service games cool. When it's like an event, it feels like, yo, did you see what just happened? Like I don't know, that stuff's cool.
yeah. So this is it's just such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, developers aren't watching this podcast. If they are, if you're gonna make a live service game, get yourself a Joel, get yourself a game master whose their whole job is to make this experience.
I think it's a little
ongoing for players.
It's a little have a team. I think it's a little rough to have it on one person, also because
Well, I mean, I guess so, but
yeah,
I mean, you could
At
always
least talk about it,
You could
you
always
know?
say that the game master dictates to the game developer, the rest of the team, like, hey, do this. We're doing this today.
yeah,
I think that like it's just really cool to like it makes it feel like your game.
They definitely
your
have
game
to
time
care.
Matters.
Yeah.
like it makes your game time matter. Where it's like, okay, like the whole point of live service games is you keep going back over and over and over again, day in day out, for
Yeah,
however
yeah.
long. Like that's the best way to do it. Where it's like if you were to tell me that like, hey, like this game, every multiplayer match you play legitimately matters to the overarching story of what's going on in that conflict.
yeah.
That's so fucking like that makes me so interested.
I don't play Fortnite, but I just heard like apparently there's a treasure chest that has
Yeah.
trillions and trillions of health. So players go around and shooting it, but over time the health bar is getting slower and slower. No one knows what's in it and know what's gonna happen when it's open. But it's just like, it's just one of those things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like it just adds to the game where you feel like I'm playing a story. Yeah.
So
Helldivers has been killing it. I hope it stays around for a long time. I think it will.
maybe it'll be tomorrow at the showcase tomorrow. I don't know.
Oh, you
Again,
throwing another one out there?
none of them have landed yet. None of
Yeah.
the Hail Marys have landed yet. So I'm
Just list off a bunch and then we'll just clip. We'll just clip that one.
Final Fantasy VII Wait, hold on. Tomorrow at the Xbox showcase, we're gonna see
Yeah, we'll just.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, Helldivers 2, Ghost of Tsushima,
Tears of the Kingdom. We'll just throw that.
Pokemon Silver.
There you go.
Pokemon Silver.
Yeah, something's got to stick.
You want to try one? It'll be me saying the first part. You cut to you saying it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, try one.
Let's see.
Just fuck.
Pikmin 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
Super Mario 64. Halo 2. I don't know.
All of those.
All of them. I guess we'll see whatever.
Titanfall 3.
Titan. Star Wars: The Mandalorian, developed by EA.
Yep.
All right. Next up in the headlines, Call of Duty Black Ops veteran developer David Vonderhaar announces a new NetEase studio. Announced last Tuesday, Bullet Farm is described as a remote-first company headquartered in LA. Vonderhaar, who worked on a total of 8 Call of Duty installments, starting with the original game in 2003, announced his departure from Treyarch last summer. He was best known for directing the multiplayer modes of nearly all of the studio's COD entries. Joining Vonderhaar's new studio, the creative director is a veteran game designer, Chris Cowell, who worked on the Call of Duty games including Modern Warfare, Warzone, and Black Ops Cold War. According to NetEase's announcement, Bullet Farm is developing a new and ambitious AAA game built in Unreal Engine 5 and set in an original universe with an emphasis on co-op gameplay. It added, the game will craft a more intimate and relatable experience while offering a fresh take on first-person gameplay. Vonderhaar said in the statement, starting this new studio has given me a chance to step out of my comfort zone and try my hand at making something entirely new and different. This is a departure from the games I've worked on, but one that showcases my passion for rich characters, precise mechanics, and more intimate storytelling and plenty of action. Looking forward to this. We'll see what happens. David Vonderhaar has always been someone that I've always appreciated in the Call of Duty development cycle. I always remember like Blackout. That was something he was always pretty involved in terms of like teasing and stuff. He loved playing, and I always remember him on. I followed him on Twitter. He would be like, "Oh, we're dropping here this weekend." You know what I mean? So, always really enjoyed David Vonderhaar's work, and so I'm hoping this works out for him.
Yeah.
Forrest is not quadruple A. Lame. Number 15 on the headlines. Devro.
Mm-hmm.
No one is playing Suicide Squad. After several delays, Warner Brother Games finally released Rocksteady's open-world supervillain game on February 2nd. But the PC version's popularity has waned since its release. Although the game hit a peak concurrent of about 13,459 the day after it released, that has dropped significantly, to the extent that the past week the number of concurrent players had never passed 1,000, according to SteamDB.
That's rough.
This puts its concurrent player count closer to that of Gotham Knights, Warner Brothers Games' previous open-world co-op superhero game, which was developed by WB Games Montreal and released in October 2022. In fact, Devro, Gotham Knights has been seeing slightly more players over the past week, with an average of 881 concurrent players compared to Suicide Squad's average of 754.
That's insane to me.
More people are playing Gotham Knights
Ugh,
than Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
that's rough.
Yeah, so it's not good. It's not good, but I guess Joker's coming this month. So I guess you could be excited for that.
I mean, you got to keep supporting the game. Nothing's truly dead. They can turn it around. It's just...
I mean, I wonder if they hit a point where they just shut the studio down. And I don't want that to happen, but we've seen this story before. We've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
Live service game comes out, it underperforms greatly because it just doesn't understand what gamers want, and then they end up, getting rid of it. Next up on the headlines, no one bought Skull and Bones. So much so that the game has already had its price slashed by $25 after less than 3 weeks on the market. The game is currently on sale for $44.99 at select retailers. That's Best Buy in the U.S. and UK retailer Hit is offering them at that price.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, I mean this was a big live service game for them, quadruple A game. When your new game is so bad, it makes the old game better. Well, Skull and Bones did that with Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, these live service games, not a good start for, some of these live service games. Helldivers is doing pretty good on Steam.
Yeah.
But the other two, not so much.
Not so much.
Not so much. Next up on the headlines, there's a new hire at Xbox. Xbox has added some new talent to its first-party roster. Squanch Games, the makers of High on Life, Trover Saves the Universe. The co-founder of the studio, Tanya Watson, has announced she's joined Microsoft as part of Xbox Game Studios' leadership team.
That's cool.
Yeah, she said, "I'm thrilled to share with y'all that I have recently joined Microsoft as part of Xbox Game Studios' leadership team. These are challenging times for our industry, and I feel incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to contribute to such important studios. I look forward to the journey ahead." Tanya started Squanch Games with Justin Roiland back in 2016, left the company in early 2021. Since then, she's been a COO and president of Bad Robot Games, and in the past, she spent 8 years as an executive producer at Epic Games, working on the likes of Fortnite and Gears of War. Earlier in her career, she was also a software development engineer at Microsoft Game Studios. So, cool.
That is cool.
Devro, the console wars are back. But
who's fighting?
See, back in my day. No, Nintendo and Sega. The war is back on. Sega has implied that Super Mario Wonder was responsible for Sonic Superstars selling less than they expected. Sega executives have implied that much during the English translation of their Q&A session held earlier this month, following its Q3 results presentation for its current fiscal year. Sega had stated that Sonic Superstars had sold fewer copies than had been forecast. So during the Q&A, Sega Sammy Holdings Executive Vice President Makoto Takashi or Takahashi, and IRSR Department Director Nobaku Yoshi were asked how they evaluated the game's performance. Quote, although Sonic Superstars has generally been well received by those who have played it, the timing and launch coincided with competing titles in the same genre, and it has been short of the initial forecast. The strategic expansion of Sonic IP is progressing well and will continue to work to increase repeat sales of the title. So, I mean, Sega says, well, we put out the Sonic game, and there's another game that competed with us and probably affected our sales. You have any idea what that game might be? Maybe? Take a guess.
Tears of the Kingdom?
Pikmin 4? No, it was Mario Wonder, Devro. Mario wins again. You know, all these Sega kids, losers. All of them. Every single one of them. Ugh. If you grew up a Sega kid, just know that you lost the most important console war. The Nintendo Sega console war was like the blood feud. And they lost. So, sucks to be them. I just thought it was funny that Sega was like, it's fucking Mario.
Again?
God, not again.
Yeah.
Last up on the news headlines. Speaking of Mario, Devro, we might be getting some Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and more importantly, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake news this week. On Sunday, a Twitter user posted a message requesting that Nintendo provide an update on Paper Mario title on March 10th, which is Mario Day, March 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up on the message, reliable leaker Pioro seemingly suggested that a Paper Mario update could be planned for this weekend, along with fresh news about Luigi's Mansion. So basically, Pioro, who is a very reputable Nintendo leaker, I follow him. He's right like 99% of the time. Forrest was a Sega kid. You lost. That's why you got laid off. You had bad taste when you were a kid.
A lot of L's.
A lot of L's.
A lot of Luigi's.
A lot of Luigi's. So Pioro, who's a very reputable leaker, he leaked Mario Wonder before it was announced, amongst other things. So this person, no context Super Mario, tweeted, "Hey Nintendo, I think it would be really awesome and cool if you drop more news about Thousand Year Door on March 10th." And Pioro says, "March 10th Mario Day falls on a Sunday this year, but ... And then he replied to his own tweet, Pioro, and said, "Also this one." And it was a gif of Luigi from Luigi's Mansion.
Okay.
So usually this is very up Pioro's alley, where it's kind of like vaguely tweets,
mm-hmm.
and then he ends up being right. So I don't know. We might not get an announcement on Mario Day because it's Sunday, but maybe like tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. Maybe Thousand Year Door will be at the Xbox Direct.
That's where it'll be.
Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remake. There you go. Cut it.
We know that's in development, right?
Yeah, it got announced at the Direct.
Yeah.
It's my most anticipated game this year.
Yeah.
Give me what I want. And they're doing it. They're like,
I mean, it makes sense that all those games they announced will be coming out before the release of the Super Switch.
I'm very excited for Thousand Year Door remake. It's like, again, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's probably my favorite Mario related game of all time.
Okay.
Like, it's definitely up there with like 64 and Galaxy. I just freaking love that game so much. So I'm so happy they're remaking it. And I would absolutely love to get some information on it. Again, Pioro has a strong track record when it comes to leaks, including outing Super Mario Bros. Wonder ahead of its official announcement, and also teasing F-Zero news the week before Nintendo announced F-Zero 99. So yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully we get some news. I gotta say though, I actually wanted to mention this too, because so obviously Pokemon Legends is coming out next year. Nintendo has nothing announced right now for the holiday season. Like I don't think they're gonna hold Paper Mario Thousand Year Door till holiday. I think that'd be insane.
What else do they have
right now? They have
that you don't think's coming.
Princess Peach is coming out in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The Luigi's Mansion 2 HD port, which is a 3DS port on Switch, and then Paper Mario. That's all they have announced. And Metroid Prime 4, but I think that's going to the Super Switch.
I agree. I think that's going to the Super Switch as well.
That's all they have announced right now. Time to give it them old Zelda ports. Here we go. It's coming. Jeff Grubb said it.
All right.
I trust Jeff Grubb. In Jeff Grubb we trust. But yeah, so I mean, hopefully, come next week we have a lot of really cool news to talk about things coming out and getting revealed this week. But that is it for the headlines. Let's dive in real quick to the game releases of the week for the week of March 4th, 2024. First up, we had Quilts and Cats of Calico coming to PC today on March 5th. The Outlast Trials comes to PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC today on March 5th. As Dusk Falls comes to PS5 and PS4 on March 7th after its stint on Xbox exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
Devro and I played it. It's a really good game. He's a monster.
I'm not a monster.
Complete monster, making terrible decisions that
I made terrible
ruin
decisions.
people's lives.
You made terrible decisions.
I don't think I made any bad decisions.
Yeah, of course you don't.
You made all the bad decisions.
I made
People
great
died
decisions.
because of you.
I made great decisions.
People died because of you.
No one died.
I think people died.
No one died.
Anyways, not the point. Bad decisions made by you, Devro.
Bad decisions made by you.
As Dust Falls is great, though. Next up, Snoofkin, Melody of Moomin Valley, comes out on Switch and PC on March 7th. The Pirate Queen, A Forgotten Legend, comes out on the Quest 3, the Quest 2, and PC on March 7th. Aka R, PS5 and PSVR 2 on March 8th. And Unicorn Overlord, PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, and Switch on March 8th. Deborah, what is currently the B-roll playing?
This is the Outlast Trials.
Okay.
Yes, this is
So
a game that's been out, I assume on PC. I'm not sure where.
Okay.
It's coming to PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah. So obviously kind of a slower week, but we have to give our picks of the week. What is your pick for this week? Is it the Outlast Trials?
It's the Outlast Trials. It would have been As Dust Falls, but we played it already. It's just moving to another platform. So I'm going to go with the Outlast Trials.
So I am actually going to go with As Dust Falls for that very reason.
Okay.
I definitely recommend it. If you're a PlayStation gamer and you haven't played this because it was only on Xbox and PC, it's a very fun choose-your-adventure kind of game. A lot of decisions, a lot of tough decisions. It's definitely one of the better tough decision kind of games I've played. Maybe it's like, I wouldn't say it's as good as like The Walking Dead from Telltale, but it's still a great game with a really great art style. And you can play with multiple friends, and it's like a voting thing where like whoever votes, whatever gets the most votes is the one that you're going with. So you might not always like the decisions, which I think leads to a really cool experience. So that's my pick for the week. Go play it.
Okay.
Forrest Dude says this B-roll is spoopy.
Oh, yeah, this is...
His pick is Helldivers 2. Well, this is why we laid him off, because for us, that game came out like a month and a half ago. So this is why...
the Outlast Trials is pretty fun. You play with friends, and you have to complete task in this, like, while things are chasing you.
Okay, so it's
like
one of those asymmetrical...
Yeah, and you also have, like, a sanity meter. If you fill it up, something will chase you, and your friends can't see it, and it's just, like, a lot of cool stuff.
All right, cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here at the Game Room Podcast. Thank you to everyone hanging out with us here tonight. I think we went up to about 6 or 7 viewers at one point. Really appreciate that. We're trying to grow the channel since we separated our content from the Broken Tables Podcast. So thank you to everyone. You know, if you're here, you were watching live, hit the like button, subscribe if you can. We have a Discord. You can join us in the Discord. You can follow me on Twitter. Devro doesn't have a Twitter.
Nope.
Do not follow him. Interesting. Under our channel, it says The Escapist 2 is a featured game.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, The Escapist 2. There you go.
Oh, that's coming tomorrow?
It's coming tomorrow. Yeah, right. Yeah. But anyways, really appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Like I said, you can join our Discord. We talk about a lot of games there. We will be back next week on Monday for the Xbox Partner Showcase review, hopefully Mario Day news review, hopefully no more layoffs.
There'll be more layoffs.
There will be more layoffs.
We know it.
God damn it. Right now I'm playing Zelda Minish Cap, by the way.
Okay.
I'm almost done it. I actually want to give props for it because it's like one of the only Zelda games that I've never beaten. And I got to this area, and it's like really spooky actually.
Okay.
And it's like actually like really cool. Like I was surprised when I like came into the area. I forget what it's called. I'll have to show it to you real quick.
Where are you playing it at?
I'm playing it on my Switch, on my NSO.
Okay.
So I'm playing that, and then after that, I'm going to jump into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So
Okay.
hopefully by the time we do a podcast next, I'm going to be on that.
Okay.
I'm very close to the end of Minish Cap. But yeah, so that's it for us here. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.